So this is the approach that I see people doing, and it doesn't work, it's unsustainable. So this is the main message that I want you to take away. This is not the way forward. It's not all about calories. So what is it about? So let's move on to the 6 steps. So the 6-step fat loss hierarchy, I will contradict myself in some ways by saying that the actual most important thing to weight loss is actually calories in versus calories out. The research is pretty clear on the fact that that is a necessary thing to have in place. You need to be in a caloric deficit. But there are other things that are at play. So how are you eating? So these are the 6 habits of people who are successful. So Precision Nutrition is a company that does nutrition coaching specifically with a fat loss take, and they've been doing that for a long time. So through their work, they're phenomenal in terms of keeping the data on everything they do and recording every statistic. So they've been able to record the habits and behaviours of the successful people, the people who actually lose weight and keep it off. So they found that how much you're eating is the most important factor. The second most important factor that they found was how are you eating? What does how are you eating mean? Basically that means is how mindful you are about what you're eating. So if you're sitting there watching the TV and you're just throwing food down, that's not going to send the same messages to your stomach, or your stomach's not going to be able to send the same messages to your brain to say, hey, I'm full, you can stop eating now, because you're distracted. So if you're eating while you're driving a car, if you're eating while you're reading the paper, you're eating at social events, so people who eat with company eat much more than people who eat by themselves. It's an interesting little phenomenon. So they found that increases with the more company that you have. If you've got more than 7 people at your dinner table, you're going to eat over 200% more than you would have on your own. They did a study where, again with this mindfulness, they did a study where they had people sitting at a table and it was set up before they got in there, and there was a bowl of soup on the table and the soup was being refilled from the bottom the whole time. And they just observed how much they kept eating. And they just didn't realise that they'd actually eaten 2.5 bowls, and they eventually said, why did you stop? And it's like, oh, I was too full, I couldn't eat anymore. And they're like, but they'd eaten 2.5 bowls worth. So it's interesting, that's where details like what is the size of your crockery actually makes a difference to how much food you eat. So if you're eating it on a small plate that's bunched up, you're going to get the perception that you're eating a lot of food. If you're eating on a massive plate with this same amount of food, it's not going to look as appetizing. So again, these factors, how are you eating? This is what they found as being really important. Why are you eating was the next most important factor. Who here is an emotional eater? We all are. We're all emotional eaters. Everything that we do is emotional. Like, what's more healthy, a donut or an apple? We know. Yeah, exactly. A hot dog or a piece of steak? Soft drink, water. We know the answers to these questions, yet we do the illogical bad thing anyway. So why are we eating? It's emotional. It comes down to memories that we have of eating food, who we've spent time with, how that makes you feel afterwards, and that's really what leads to that sustainability. If you've still got these emotional attachments, and we've all got them, it's just about how deeply ingrained they are and how much you let them affect you. Unless you can change that, you're not going to keep the weight off. You're going to fall off the wagon at some point and revert back to your old ways. So you've got to really think about why you're doing what you're doing. The next most important factor is what are you eating? So it's strange that that's the 4th one. What are you actually eating? It makes the fourth on the list. You'd think that would be quite important. And it is. So what does that mean? So what are you eating? That comes down to, there's a lot of things that broad umbrella covers. So we're looking at how much protein are you getting in your diet, how much carbohydrate are you getting in your diet, how much fats are you getting in your diet, how are you combining those foods, what ratio of those foods are you eating, what diversity, what range of foods are you eating as you're doing that. If you're eating the same food over and over again, it means that you're more likely to develop an intolerance to that food. But you're also missing out on the broad spectrum of micronutrients that come with food. We need to eat a range of options. And we need to pay attention to what makes us feel better. So the next thing after that is, are you achieving those 1 to 4 consistently? So you might do it for a week or two, not get a result and go, damn this. What else is there out there? Well, surely there's a supplement that I can take that will just solve my problems. But you've got to do this consistently for a period of time before anything else really matters. But the final factor, which is really quite cool, is when are you eating? So once you've got all that down pat, you'll be getting some pretty good results at that point. But to really turbocharge and accelerate them, then you start considering when are you eating. And so this comes down to, particularly in relation to exercise, in relation to sleep, all these kinds of things. It makes a difference frequency of food throughout the day, how you eat around your exercise. These are factors that you can start to consider. Paul Cribb is the founder, as I said, of Metabolic Precision, and his study specifically looked at nutrient timing. And what he found as a result of his study, so he took a bunch of bodybuilders, and so he took them specifically because they would have already proven that they were quite consistent with their food. They had a long history of training and consistency with training, so he was trying to control for as many factors as possible. He explicitly educated a group of them about nutrient timing and how things like protein shakes and taking the right carbohydrates at the right time, creatine, monohydrate as a supplement, taking them around exercise, and looked at, compared to that group, the other group that were eating pretty much the same foods but just not in a strategic kind of way. And the people that actually had the nutrient timing saw 200% better results in terms of muscle mass gains, and actually saw fat loss as well in the same period of time, so that was the best of both worlds. So for a much better body composition outcome, and they were eating roughly the same foods but just different times. And it's interesting how powerful that can be. Now again, this is one factor. I wouldn't go nuts about, oh, I missed my window on this particular day if you're not getting the first 4 right, but it is an important thing to know that where you can take it to. If you're looking for better results, this is the kind of thing that you can start paying attention to.